Foam Foot 420, good morning. Welcome in.
Now, Chris Toole.
Welcome into the month of September. Are you kidding me? September 1st, it is a Wednesday. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And shortly after we went off the air yesterday, the Cam Newton news broke. Cam Newton released by the New England Patriots. He's out there. What will happen with Cam Newton? One of the many topics we will discuss today. All of the cut downs yesterday in the National Football League as teams cut down to 53. So we'll talk NFL, we'll talk college sports, we'll talk Major League Baseball, including the Houston Astros, and more. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, will not only talk hoops, but we'll talk football, I'm sure, maybe even some music with Bill Schoening. Shannon Salty Sweeney, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to talking to Bill. I'm going to have to get his pick for this weekend. I know we're 3 days out, so there's still time for him to change his mind.
Yes.
But I'm thinking I'm going to start asking for his weekly Texas pick.
I like that. Yes. I wonder if he would ever pick against Texas.
See, that's why I gotta bring it everywhere. But you can't make it obvious. You can't ask them that. You gotta just by the end of the year, you'd be like, you realize you never picked against Texas, right? You homer.
Even OU, but maybe he'll nail that. Texas will beat OU. That would be cool. So yeah, Bill's going to join us just after 8:00 in the 8:00 hour. And Shannon, it happened shortly after we went off the air. It was the big marquee cut of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we said yesterday, there's going to be some names you recognize that are going to be cut as NFL teams cut their rosters down to 53 yesterday. I did not think one of those names would be Cam Newton, the quarterback of former quarterback of the New England Patriots. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought we were still kind of deciding whether or not he would be the starter for that squad. And apparently, driving in, listening to Brady Quinn this morning, he had some inside information that said, he wasn't necessarily cut. He asked for his release when he was told that he would not get that starting gig. And I think Brady made a great point of, you might be worthy of a starting gig, but that position you are in where they are starting a rookie, they may not like how it goes. You probably have a better chance of stepping in and filling in those shoes rather than where we are right now with teams feeling confident in who they have as their starter. I think his best bet now is to be a backup somewhere. And that's if he takes it, because he is super alpha. He is Mr. Superman. Yeah. Remember that commercial, the Play 60 commercial after his MVP season with the little kid warming up his arm, talking about how he's coming for Cam Newton's job? That's Mac Jones. And it's happened. All these years later, that kid has come in and he's taken his job. And I don't know. Cam Newton, who knows? Maybe we've seen the last of him. I don't know. I doubt it. Not without a fight, but
yeah,
I don't know that we'll see him starting this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, he does seem like the guy, and also as evidenced by, asking for his outright release when he no longer had the starting gig. He doesn't sound like a guy who would embrace the backup quarterback role. However, it's a matter of how long he learns and realizes that's got to be the way it is, at least for the time being. Jameis Winston, in a similar circumstance, he had to kind of eat some humble pie.
Yeah.
Go to New Orleans, and here he is now. It is his gig in New Orleans. So we will see. I think, whether it takes a week or longer or whatever, at some point Cam Newton's going to realize this is his path, and if he wants to come back and make a point and be a starting quarterback in the NFL, he's going to have to do that. And take a backup role, and maybe it'll lead to something.
Yeah, and I don't think it's about money for him. Obviously, he wasn't getting paid a lot anyway from the Patriots, and he's made plenty of money. He still has endorsements. I went immediately to his socials yesterday. He posted on Instagram, don't feel sorry for me. Well, we now know don't feel sorry for him because he released himself. I mean, he didn't get cut. He asked to go. But he had like the last picture on his Instagram was an endorsement, right? It was like, if you're stuck in traffic around Boston, get one of these electric bikes. Whatever. Like he's doing fine money wise. So it'll be interesting to see if he's willing to take a backup role to sit on a team that could be Super Bowl bound this year. Maybe that would help sway his decision. But you're right. I mean, he's got to Jameis Winston himself and kind of bring himself down to the realization that this is where you are in your career. And you might not be named an initial starter, but you might get an opportunity like Jason or Jameis where you sit and learn and, get that feel.
Now, yesterday, the news that did break on our show, and we reacted to it, was that the Dallas Cowboys had cut Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert, leaving Cooper Rush for the time being as the backup quarterback in Dallas. So now, Shannon, I'm sure you did what I did as soon as you got the Cam Newton news, which is, connect the dots and say, would this work in Dallas? Would Cam Newton work as a backup quarterback in Dallas? And to me, he's a whole heck of a lot better than Cooper Rush. How do you feel about the prospect of Cam Newton coming to Dallas to be the backup quarterback?
I don't know about his personality, because we just talked about how he's going to have to humble himself first. If he can't do that, I don't like the fit. Because this is Dak's team. Everyone loves Dak. He would have to be Mr. Clipboard. So I don't see him taking that opportunity. Again, it's not about money because he would still roll in endorsements. If you have a star on your chest, you're set. In keeping with quarterbacks in Dallas and New England, the Cowboys released Garrett Gilbert. And the sentiment is that he will be assigned to the practice squad should nobody else pick him up. But now that Mac Jones is the only quarterback on New England Patriots roster, I kind of think the Patriots might reach back out to Garrett Gilbert, who has been on that team, won a Super Bowl with that team. I mean, he was there. He didn't win it himself, but he was there. So is familiar with, the Patriot way and Bill Belichick and that system, that maybe they'll look to bring him in to be a backup or at least be a part of that roster.
Now, that could certainly happen. Now, you mentioned, and I agree, you might have some attitude problem from Cam Newton, just because I'm sure he has great confidence in himself. And even if,
look at him. He's a specimen.
Yes.
He's beautiful.
Yes, he is. But I think you could find a way. And word is, other players in the locker room love Cam Newton. They really enjoy him. But that's always been in a situation where he was the starting quarterback.
You have to enjoy me.
Yes. I think, certainly Dak Prescott would be secure enough in his job. We would all know, and Dak would know, and that team would know, and Cam Newton would have to know that that's not his job. This is Dak Prescott's team, and you're the backup quarterback. However, there are question marks about Dak Prescott's complete 100% health. So if Cam Newton thought this through, maybe there is a chance that he could get in and contribute to the Cowboys and be a backup quarterback. For me, I'm willing to, roll the dice a little bit as far as, locker room compatibility and team harmony. I'd rather roll the dice and find a way to make it work with Cam Newton as my backup than Cooper Rush. Because if, God forbid, something happens again to knock out Dak Prescott, and we say it many, many times, Shannon, it's very difficult for any quarterback to make it through a 17-game season unscathed. He could be knocked out for a quarter, maybe a fourth quarter of a game. He could be knocked out for a couple of games. I'd feel a lot more secure with Cam Newton, a guy who's, as you said, a lot of people forget this, MVP of the league at one point. And, we all remember he went to that Super Bowl against the Broncos, and the Broncos were a much better team on that day. Although, if you remember, Carolina was favored to win that Super Bowl going in. But, this is a guy who, if push came to shove and he had to come in at quarterback, I think he could will the Cowboys down the field to score a touchdown and win a game, whereas I'm not so sure Cooper Rush could do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think playing style compared to or in alignment with Dak is very similar. So should something happen to Dak, it wouldn't be too much of a change to have him come in. And as far as, whether or not his personality mixes, I think you're taking less risk putting him in there as a backup. It's not like you're saying he's going to be your starter, and if personalities don't fit, then you're going to have to make larger readjustments because he's your starter and you are invested in that. You're a lot less invested as a backup. Clearly, the Cowboys need to go after somebody, and whether or not it's Cam, I do not know. But we are asking today over on the Twitters if the Cowboys should sign Cam Newton to be their backup quarterback. So far, Chris, 64% saying no.
I find that interesting. We're getting some reaction on the live video feed. A lot of people reacting to Cam Newton, and Anthony Huerta writes, was Cam Newton's release tied to vaccinations? Is he going to continue to be unavailable? If he can't be available, it'll be hard to bring him onto any team. That's an interesting question, and I think it has a lot of ramifications. The vaccination thing, Shannon, as we know, at this point, Cam Newton has not been vaccinated. He did violate COVID protocols. That cost him to miss, I think, 5 days or 5 practices with the New England Patriots. And certainly either directly or indirectly, and, NFL teams are wise not to specifically say, even if it's true, that, vaccinations had something to do with players being released.
Unless you're Urban Meyer, then you
yes. And we'll get into that.
You say it and then you say, can I say that?
Yeah. Whoops.
Too late.
Yeah. You put it out there. So, among the things, Shannon, that would have to happen for Cam Newton to come to the Cowboys or probably any other team would be he needs to have a come to Jesus moment about getting vaccinated.
Yeah. Well, because we know Jerry has made plenty of quotes about what his thoughts on the vaccine, and he's really proud of the Cowboys' vaccination percentage. I don't know that he'd take the hit bringing in a guy who he knows openly has not been vaccinated, and whether or not that was maybe in the back of their mind of why they don't name him the starter, right? Because he becomes, he obviously we didn't have the vaccination last season, but he did miss some games due to COVID issues that, because he went to a dinner or something that he shouldn't have gone to with a player who ended up testing positive. And, that's just, it's a lack of trust. It's a judgment decision, poor judgment decision that he made that, the team may not trust him in that way. But again, he asked for his release because he was called back up. Whether or not they sat there and tried to say, no, please don't go, or whether or not they thought, okay, whatever, you might be more of a liability. Who knows? But he himself asked for the release.
And again, if you're going to be a leader of a football team and quarterback in the National Football League and quarterback on any level, high school, college, pro, middle school, if you're the quarterback, you need to lead by example. And, I know vaccinations that for some people it's controversial, but there's the old adage, take one for the team. And I think in the case of vaccinations, I mean, you need to do it. And if you have issues with it, that is going to be a liability for you. And, as you mentioned, so now Bill Belichick, about the most no-nonsense coach there is in the National Football League for years and years and years and years. He had Tom Brady, who was the ultimate lead by example guy, be totally dedicated to the team on and off the field. And Cam Newton last year and this year with regard to COVID issues and, in my opinion, vaccination, choosing not to be vaccinated, showed that he's not the ultimate team player. Because now, like vaccinations or not, that is now part of the equation in the National Football League. And it does cause players and coaches, we learned that with the Cowboys over the preseason, to miss games, to miss practices, to miss games. And now you've got the NFL with this forfeit policy in place this year. If enough players are test positive for COVID or are out due to COVID reasons, you could forfeit football games. That could cost somebody a playoff opportunity.
Yeah. And you think of something spreads through the wide receiver room and it leaves you with one eligible wide receiver. Well, you can put some running backs or possibly even a safety or something who played in college, because they move those players around so much that could make do. I mean, it wouldn't look great. It wouldn't probably be your best outing, but you wouldn't be forfeiting that game. Your quarterback room gets destroyed because of contact tracing, whatever.
Yeah.
There goes that check.
You're done. And again, you could lose games, therefore playoffs. You could lose, obviously, millions of dollars if a game is forfeited or canceled. Lots to talk about all morning long. We're getting a lot of reaction on the live video feed. If you're new to the show, a few ways you can access that. You can do it through Facebook, either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760's Facebook page would get you there. You can also get in there through YouTube and Twitch as well.
Not on Twitch today. Remember?
Not on Twitch.
First. And you told me that the first was we're not on because like
some kind of
raids, you said?
Twitter protest day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I followed suit and we are not on Twitch today.
Nice.
We'll be back.
We're taking a stand for you mean people on Twitch or against you mean people on Twitch. All right. So there's that. So, all right. YouTube or Facebook Live, jump in the video feed. You can call us at any time this morning, other than when we're talking to Bill Schoening, and that'll be at 8:05. Phone number 800-707-9760. Keep that number handy because also in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to give away Coheed and Cambria tickets. They are coming to Circuit of the Americas on Saturday evening. You can score your tickets here. Same phone number when that happens. We'll tell you when to call in for the tickets, 800-707-9760. We will meet Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist, in the next segment. We'll also have our high five play of the day. Later in the show, Shannon's salty shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more on a September 1st. We're with you till 9 o'clock this morning. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Go Dodgers. Go Joe Kelly. Fonzie, I love you. I don't love Joe Kelly at all. Yeah, Dodgers picked up a game on San Francisco again last night. I heard that. Foam Foot 420, that's a great song. Wake Me Up When September Ends. It's a classic. I remember playing that. I was working... Okay. Okay. Oh, super. Let me go look at that. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. All right. I am in a moment going to grab some coffee. Beth Settle, good morning. Welcome in. Once again, you're in here crazy early. Like third day in a row. Okay, Dave Ayler is telling me he's got an Urban Meyer cut. I don't see it. All right, I'm going to look for it after coffee. So if I don't make the coffee run now, I'm not going to have time. Get my huge, ridiculous, Texas-sized coffee container. Purchased at H-E-B. Thank you. Good morning, Wes Perkins. JJ Perez, what is up? JJ Perez, is that right? Jackson State at UAB tonight. For those of you who don't know, yeah, sorry about the volume issue. There was a button that was not engaged this morning. But so Since you guys told me about it, I said, all right, what could the problem be? JJ Perez is a great reporter. We've had him on the show. We will have you again, JJ, for Inside Runner Sports. JJ, I think you quoted him online this week. So, Jacksonville State. Yeah, Jackson State. Henry Ward of the Spurs back in the 70s went to Jackson State. But yeah, we have Jeff Traylor, head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners, on Mondays now at 8:35. So we have Andy Everett now will join us on Thursday mornings at 8:35. Wes Perkins, I'm with you. We have a problem at backup quarterback, and his name is Cooper Rush. And it would have been either of the other two if you kept either of the other two. So solve the problem. I've looked through this prep twice, and I can't spot the Urban Meyer cut, but just say he's talking about the vaccinations, right? Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I figured that's what you had. So, yeah, when we talk about it, we'll definitely run that cut. Thank you. So let's see who I see in here. Foam Foot 420, James Wright, Robert Almaraz, Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro, Luisa Alanis, Tracy Bogert, Paul Rubel. If I mispronounce anybody's name, I apologize in advance. Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. Beth Settle. Robert Armstrong. Robert, I'm not sure how much it would cost, but I'm sure if both parties wanted the deal done, they'd find a way. Dave Emilio Castanuela, Fonzie J. Rodriguez, who likes Joe Kelly, unlike me. JJ Perez, welcome. Jesse Bratton, good morning. Jamie Woods, good morning. And Steve Duraco, the original Rock, the original Italian Stallion, co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club, and soon to be enshrined in the San Antonio Polar Bear Club Hall of Fame. Not sure who will be presenting Steve Duraco for enshrinement into the San Antonio Polar Bear Club Hall of Fame, but it should be pretty exciting. Yeah, that is true, Robert. The Cowboys not only reworked Dax, a few of the players, they reworked their contracts a little bit to free up some cap space. Yeah, Robert, I saw a few contracts. I don't remember which players specifically, but and I'm sure if you say Zeke was one of them, but I did see in a story maybe 4 contracts that were reworked a bit to free up some cap space. Some like contract money was converted into bonus money and converted into, I guess, retroactive signing bonuses. Here we come. Jason Paniagua, welcome in.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
And welcome back in. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. Shannon, I cannot believe it's September 1st. I know I say this every month. I know I said that on June 1st and every other month, but it's like, especially this one, because to me, summer is June, July, August. So where the heck did summer go?
Are you a fan of pumpkin spice? Like anything? Not necessarily like the Starbucks coffee, but
it's a little overdone. I don't dislike it. It's all right.
I mean, it came out weeks ago already, and I'm like, it's not my favorite flavor. I'm more of the wintry mint I can hang with.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to Disney in a couple weeks, and they've already transformed those parks into all things Halloween. So it's gonna get here, I think, quickly, the holiday season. And I think it starts with September, because for whatever reason people think September 1st is the start of fall.
Wow.
Like, no, I'm hanging out at the pool this weekend. What are you talking about?
And it was like, it's crazy hot yesterday. Technically, we have till, depending on when the autumnal equinox is, either on the 21st, the autumnal equinox, the first day of fall is usually on the 21st or 22nd.
That on your spelling bee.
You don't get a lot of autumnal equinox references on Sports Talk Radio, but you do here. Before we do our high five play of the day, let us meet our soundscape stylist, the lovely and talented Mr. Super Dave Ayler. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I see you're wearing a different Astros shirt today, so we know you didn't do the walk of shame. You actually had to change your clothes.
It's inside out.
Yeah, it's inside out, and it's old school Astros with the Astrodome in the logo. That's
really cool.
Used to have that. So yeah, so there's that. So what's on your radar today? What's up in the life of Dave Ayler on September 1st?
I say Cam Newton's going to the Houston Texans.
That's intriguing as well.
I take him over to Tyrod Taylor any day.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction anyway.
And kind of the same sentiment, right? As why would leave, a Patriots organization where that possibility is there for him to become the starter? I feel that way in Houston, and I think he'd be a good fit down there.
Give him $3 or $4 million to start, and have him sit out the first week since he may not know the system.
Yeah, except the next year he might be in the same situation. They do draft Spencer Rattler if they do end up with that first pick.
Oh, he'll be in the same. No matter what team he goes to, if he's a starter, he'll be at the same position he is now. But he can start and start another year and then either become a backup or call it a career.
We shall see. I must say that when I was watching the preseason game between the Texans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you mentioned Tyrod Taylor and that you take Cam Newton over Tyrod Taylor any day. Just looking at Tyrod Taylor, he looked. You see Tom Brady and the Bucs on one side, And then Tyrod Taylor he looked tiny. I don't know how tall Tyrod Taylor is or what he's listed as, but he looked like a tiny quarterback. I never before, I've paid attention to Tyrod Taylor's career in Buffalo and then with the LA Chargers, but I never thought of him as a tiny quarterback. But I think he looks tiny. I think having a big Cam Newton in there running that offense might be a better call.
That'd be a good question for Mark Vandermeer if this is all resolved by Friday.
We will talk with the voice of the Houston Texans, Mark Vandermeer, on Friday. So we'll see. And who knows? Yeah, maybe there'll be movement by Friday in the world of Cam Newton. All right. We like to bring you the high five play of the day at this time. Because not everybody, but somebody deserves a high five. High five play of the day is brought to you by, appropriately, High Five. Great venue with 2 locations in the Austin area where you've got everything going on at a High Five location. You've got big screen TVs all over the place. You got adult beverages and kid beverages. It's kid friendly and adult friendly. You've got great food, great drink, fun games, whether it's bowling, a laser tag, axe throwing, or more. Go check out one of the 2 or both High Five locations in the Austin area. Shannon, do you have our High Five story for this morning in front of you?
Yeah, let's do that hockey, Chris.
Let's do
that hockey.
Yes.
We love hockey here on the Chris Duel Show.
We're all about the hockey.
But no, we're giving a high five to Seattle Kraken as well as donors and other people who helped raise $3 million, sir. Seattle Kraken, the newest addition to the NHL, have raised money to bring back hockey to the University of Alaska at Anchorage. Their team recently, they couldn't fund the program, so they went away with it. But now they've helped to raise all of this money to bring the program back. So they will return to the ice in the 2022-2023 season. I think it's fantastic. You're in Alaska. You have to have hockey.
God, yes.
That seems like there wasn't another sport that maybe they could have gotten. That sounds bad, but really, hockey? You're next to you're basically Canada. You might. That seems almost illegal. So,
yeah. What are you going to do indoors in Anchorage, Alaska? You've got to have. It's like not having football in Texas. You got to have hockey in Alaska.
Between hockey and the curling team, what is one more successful? But that I just think it's fantastic, and we talk about teams, getting them while they're young and getting a fan base. And Seattle, brand new organization. Obviously they kind of have a built-in one, but why not reach out to other states and by helping out this city in Anchorage, get this university's program back on the map? I think they've probably gained some new fans there as well. So a high five to Seattle.
Yeah. And again, whatever the sport is, and in this case, it is hockey, to realize the importance of keeping the game alive in other venues. And in this case, on a college level, very, very cool. So Seattle Kraken, good on you. Good on everybody else. Apparently, University of Alaska Anchorage called the Sea Wolves. That's kind of a cool name.
I don't know what that is.
Sea wolf, huh? Yeah. What is a sea wolf? It's got to be something.
Is that a mystical creature?
Maybe it is a mystical creature.
Real? Now I feel stupid if it's real.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have to. Yeah, I have no idea. Well, and again, we're in Texas, so we don't probably see a lot of sea wolves in Texas, or do we? I don't know. If you're hip to sea wolves, let us know. But that is your high five play of the day. Don't forget, a little bit later, in fact, I'll tell you, it is in the 8:00 hour. We're going to give away the Coheed and Cambria tickets. As we were just talking about with Dave, Shannon, Cam Newton, of course, big in the news. It's our poll question today. Should the Dallas Cowboys sign Cam Newton? But as Dave brought up, the prospect of the Houston Texans, and if that wound up happening and Cam Newton went to the Houston Texans, and as you mentioned, they're expected by most, I would think, to have the worst record in the NFL, therefore garnering them Spencer Rattler if all things go as projected in next year's NFL draft. But if you're Cam Newton, you were on the New England Patriots, and they are getting they had a number of players who took last year off due to COVID. They're expected to be a very good team, not projected quite to win the AFC East over the Buffalo Bills, but I think Colin Cowherd had them at 10-7. I heard him talking about them yesterday. So at quarterback, you just got to wonder that Houston Texans offensive line, if Cam Newton went there, certainly compared to the New England Patriots, you're probably going to get a lot more hits as the Houston Texans quarterback. Or you look at the Cowboys offensive line, if you're Cam Newton trying to make the decision, I'm sure top of his list is where's my best chance to play and play soon. But especially at his age and all of the hits he's taken, I think a big consideration for him needs to be offensive line.
Yeah, that was my, a lot of thoughts with the Houston. I like the fit for right now, but again, a lot of signs are pointing to them possibly getting Spencer Rattler, and then he would find himself in the same position that he's already in. I mean, I'm sure he thought with like a Mac Jones or a rookie quarterback behind him at first that he thought he was like the Brett Favre to the Aaron Rodgers, right? Like there would be, there would be some sitting time for a new guy to come in, but that just isn't the case. And then you're right. I mean, when he was with Carolina, I mean, it was constant. Like, look how much time this guy is spending on his back. I mean, he can't do anything when there's no offensive line, and Houston kind of notorious for not having that line together, a strong line that I don't, at this point, what does he value more? Does he want to win a championship and doesn't care if he's actually a part of it or if he's just on the team? Does he want money? Does he want his health? I mean, there's a lot for him to weigh, and it's odd because in thinking and saying of all this out loud, I feel like him having stayed with the Patriots would have been the best move.
Yes, on a lot of levels. But another name that has come up, another team that has come up is the Washington football team. Certainly their head coach, Ron Rivera, who spent so many years with Cam Newton when Cam was with the Carolina Panthers, certainly knows him, knows his capabilities, knows his demeanor on and off the field. And a lot of people believe that the one part of that Washington football team that's a little suspect is quarterback. Of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick, aka Fitzmagic, is currently the quarterback in Washington. And Ron Rivera, when he went from the Panthers to Washington a year ago, did have the opportunity to get Cam Newton before the New England Patriots did. So Ron Rivera, we know, has passed on Cam Newton once, which I think therefore makes the likelihood of his going for him now diminished. But it is, as a Cowboys fan, if Washington made that move, I would not like it. I think that would certainly strengthen their quarterback position and make them even a more formidable team in the NFC East.
Well, let me make your day, because Ron Rivera has confirmed that they are not interested in bringing Cam in. He confirmed Ryan is our quarterback, and we like the guys that we have in that room, and are not going to look to bring in Cam. And I don't know what that says about, we talked about Cam's personality, what that says about their time together.
Yeah.
In that he looked him over once, and now he's not going to consider him this time around. And in, like you said, a situation where, Fitzmagic is only magical for bits and pieces of a season. So there's no, although he's a starting quarterback today, doesn't mean he's a starting quarterback tomorrow kind of thing, which again would fall into Cam possibly being able to move into a starting job, but it's apparently just not an option in Ron Rivera's mind.
Well, and again, you said, I'm not sure what that says about, Ron Rivera's perception about Cam Newton, but I think it certainly speaks volumes. I mean, nobody knows Cam Newton more intimately from a coaching perspective than Ron Rivera. And again, for the second consecutive season, Ron Rivera had an opportunity to go get Cam Newton and bring him over. And knowing what he knows, he is choosing not to do so. I've got to believe, and Ron Rivera, very respected around the NFL. If you're Cam Newton, that's not good news for you, because other general managers, other coaches, and organizations are going to look at that decision and say, there's something there. There's some reason that Ron Rivera 2 years in a row does not want to bring in a guy who was once the league MVP, and Ron Rivera went to the Super Bowl with Cam Newton, and you still don't want him. Well, quite interesting.
And the COVID card again, Ron Rivera, very outspoken about guys being vaccinated and the disappointment he has had in guys who have voiced that they're not wanting to get vaccinated, that they don't consider, themselves to be a threat to a team when they aren't vaccinated. And so maybe that is something that he is considering. And, he's not saying it out loud like Urban Meyer, but again, I think at that quarterback position, that is so important. And what does it say about Cam Newton? Again, if he doesn't trust Cam Newton from the time he spent with him, and then you add this COVID thing on top of it, I think Ron Rivera is trying to do what's best for his team. And for whatever reason right now, this is the choice he's going with.
And, you brought up Urban Meyer. In the next segment, just after 7, we'll get into the controversy there. Urban Meyer saying COVID was a consideration in some of the personnel moves for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I realize with the players union, you can't publicly say this, but I really believe it's got to be the NFL's policy. If you want to play football in the National Football League, it's dollars and cents. It's financial. It's cause and effect. You look at last season and you even look at this preseason, Dan Quinn and people on the Cowboys staff and players around the league, including Cam Newton, missing time, missing days for violating or being affected by COVID-19 protocols. The way we know, science tells us, mathematics and medicine tell us, the way to minimize those difficulties that can cost you games and maybe cost you to forfeit a game is to be vaccinated. And I realize that at this moment, legally, the NFL can't have a vaccine mandate, because certainly there would be states such as Texas where Governor Greg Abbott says you can't have a vaccine mandate. But to me, it's the price of playing football. And yes, you do have freedom. And yes, you do have the freedom to say, no, I don't want to get the vaccine. But if you exercise that freedom, then you can go look for work elsewhere. There's other things you can do. You are blessed and privileged to have the opportunity to play football in the National Football League. And if you're choosing not to get vaccinated, is that important to you to put your career in jeopardy, then that is a decision you have the freedom to make.
I have a take on why maybe he shouldn't have considered the vaccination when deciding this roster. I'll give it to you the next segment. It's forming because All right.
Yeah. So stick around for that. Urban Meyer kind of stepped in it and is now actually being investigated by the National Football League.
Didn't take long, did it?
Yeah. We'll hear from Urban Meyer coming up as well. And you can react to that and everything we talk about this morning. Phone number, if you want to jump in on any of these topics, 800-707-9760. Coming up a little bit later in the show, our good friend, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, not only talk hoops, and man, October 4th is the first preseason game in the NBA. So we're about a month away we're like 2 weeks away from NBA training camps, but we'll also talk football and more with Bill Schoening. Also, the giveaway, Coheed and Cambria tickets this weekend. They are at Circuit of the Americas. Your shot at those tickets coming up as well. Shannon Salty Shakedown coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, just after 7:30, along with This Day in Sports History, sports birthdays, and more. She's the salty one, Dave Ayler, making the show go. I'm Chris. We are with you until 9. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. David Valles, good morning.
This kind of starts out with the reporter asking the question, and then
Super. 21 seconds. Thank you. Ernest Moyer, good morning. Let's see. Everybody's loving what's good. All right. Where did that go? Yeah, Ernest, that's an interesting consideration. They wanted to play at Jerry World, but there's a concert that is creating a conflict. So apparently the search is still on. And certainly San Antonio, after Katrina in 2005, demonstrated that it's ready for prime time. Filled that place up for 3 games. David Valles, good morning. If I didn't say that earlier. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. You know what I think it is? Now, Chris Duel.
We are inching closer and closer to college football in a big way on Saturday as the Texas Longhorns take on Louisiana. Of course, UTSA Roadrunners on the road at Illinois. In fact, we've got a game tonight, Jacksonville State versus UAB. If you absolutely need your college football fix, you can go get yourself some college football. And of course, a week from tomorrow night will be the Thursday night opener in the National Football League for the regular season as the Dallas Cowboys take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So much to talk about this morning on the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And yes, we are giving away Coheed and Cambria tickets. We'll do that in the next hour. The same phone number you use to call us up if you want to sound off on something, you'll be using that as well. Our phone number, and you're always invited to join us on any of these topics, is 800-707-9760. The soundscape stylist is Dave Ayler. And Shannon, we talked about it in the previous segment, and we will dive into it now. Urban Meyer head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, his first foray into the National Football League as a head coach after so much success as a college head coach. He was asked a question by a reporter, and his response has sparked not only controversy, but a probe by the NFL Players Association. Let's hear that moment when the reporter asks a question of Urban Meyer.
Can you share with us whether a vaccinated versus unvaccinated player had an impact on a roster decision?
Everyone was considered. That was part of the production. Let's start talking about this, and then also, is he vaccinated or not? Can I say that was a decision maker? It was certainly in consideration.
Urban Meyer. That's a no-no, according to the agreement between the NFL and the Players Association for their vaccination status to be part of the decision as to whether or not they would be released by the Jaguars. Shannon, you mentioned in the previous segment, you got a little something. You got some thoughts on this issue.
Just to play the devil's advocate a little bit here. You talked about, it can be a liability to carry a player, especially a key player on your roster, and then the potential of getting COVID or spreading COVID. So I understand why he would take it into consideration. And I personally don't think it's bad he did. Now, should he go around saying it out loud? No, because you get this kind of reaction, but it doesn't mean it's not happening across the league. Just other guys, I guess, have their PR conversations before they do press conferences rather than in the middle of them. But Urban Meyer, I think, is an experiment in Jacksonville. And I think because of that, he is going to be on a short leash, whether or not that's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't think it's any longer than that. And by doing this, we don't know their entire roster's vaccination status. There may very well still be a handful of guys on that team that aren't vaccinated. But because of him saying this, it now creates the look that you have a responsible team, that you have a team that is mostly vaccinated, and therefore you won't have to forfeit games. Therefore, you won't be playing games without certain players because they've been put into protocol. And because of that, you're kind of getting that, throwing that excuse out that you kind of had in your back pocket as a first-year head coach with a brand new quarterback, right? And you're still dealing with the COVID issues that everyone else seemingly is dealing with as well. I think by doing this, he gets rid of that and could in turn make his experiment that much shorter should things not go their way, if they're not winning, because he doesn't have that to rely on. And not that that's something teams want to rely on, because they want to come full-fledged each and every week. But he does kind of, get rid of it himself by kind of admitting that, I pick and chose players either based on vaccination status or based on my trust in them, that if they're not vaccinated, they're not going out to events during the season that could possibly have them in contact with someone who tests positive. They're not risking themselves in a way that maybe some other players were that weren't vaccinated.
A lot to digest there. But certainly, I think it reflects in a big way on decision-making. And you're right. It's not just decision-making on a football field. It's decision-making by that player off the field. And in the era of COVID, and again, all the more reason to get vaccinated, it's the people you come in contact with. If you're going to go out to, we saw that footage several months ago of a party at Dak Prescott's place with Ezekiel Elliott in attendance. And, so many Cowboys were not wearing masks. And I mean, if you want to be a part of a team, and every team in the National Football League, its mission is to win football games. And I wish there were no COVID-19, but it is part of our lives now. And whatever team you're on, if you're on a team in the NFL or any team anywhere, or whatever company team you're on, the decisions you make away from either the football field or the workplace, the places you go, the people you hang out with. I walked into a sports bar not long ago, Shannon, and I put my mask on and I go into the sports bar, which was pretty darn crowded. Not a single person had a mask on. And I thought to myself, this is an indoor facility, big screen TVs everywhere. That's beautiful. Love me some sports, and I love me some sports bars. But simple math. Probably 20% of the people there were breathing COVID-19 into the air, and nobody cared to have a mask on. Now if I prefer to go to a venue that has an outdoor patio with some big screen TVs, because again, trusting experts and trusting doctors and epidemiologists, we know that an outdoor space makes the vaccine's transmission significantly less effective. So I think the bottom line here is, yes, every NFL team, because it's a financial decision, is factoring in COVID-19 and vaccination status into the players. Obviously, if you're a star, and this is what makes Cole Beasley so interesting at Buffalo, he is a pretty darn good slot receiver. So you can't, if you just cut Cole Beasley, that will be certainly, that's going to be fishy, and that's going to be looked into. And I think you would find out you cut him because of his defiance on the vaccine issue. But it certainly is an effect, and I know the NFL owners, money is involved here. Big money can be lost if games are shut down, and it's almost like the Colin Kaepernick issue. Did the NFL blackball Colin Kaepernick? Yes, they did. Can they legally come out and owners say, "Oh yeah, none of us are going to hire Colin Kaepernick. We're not going to give him a sniff as a backup quarterback because we all decided." No, you can't collude and blackball a player. That would be huge legal action. And actually, Colin Kaepernick did win a big legal decision from the National Football League. I think it's the same thing here. I think owners are definitely, factoring it in, and Urban Meyer just decided, for whatever the reason, or thoughtlessly in that answer to that reporter, decided to speak the truth.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to see Urban Meyer in a kind of controversial headline given his history, but it is weird that he is kind of on the side of people being like, well, I mean, he's not wrong. It's just the only part that was wrong was that he said it out loud, right?
Mhm.
But it is, you bring up Cap. I mean, it is interesting that, what if a player I don't know how you would prove that you were worthy of the roster spot per se, to say I was wrongly terminated, right? Because, a lot of times in offices, you have to, if your boss doesn't like you, they will look for ways and reasons to get rid of you, but they have to have cause.
Yes.
And I think right now the NFL now needs to determine if a vaccination status is worthy cause.
Exactly.
And even though Urban Meyer said it out loud, I think a lot of coaches in the NFL, Mike Zimmer probably being the next one that comes to mind, Ron Rivera as well, of guys who also took that into consideration when making those roster cuts.
And our good buddy, and I brought up Cole Beasley, Shannon, have we heard anything more from Cole Beasley lately? Is he still?
Yeah, because, he was like, I'm not going to tweet until the rest of the season. And that didn't even last a month. He tweeted something earlier this week about, the NFL has approved that vaccinated players will be tested once a week compared to non-vaccinated players who are getting tested every day. And he said, if it's not every day, it's not enough. So he wants vaccinated players to be tested every day. I think he's maybe thinking he'll prove a point of that if vaccinated players are tested every day, then they will see that there are just as many cases of positive COVID. I don't know. It's like he's trying to prove something by seeing bad things happen.
Yeah. And again, while he's a good slot wide receiver, easy for me to say, he's not the greatest. He's not a great one. I just think the more that he pushes, the more that Cole Beasley pushes, I mean, he's got to be aggravating to the league and specifically to Buffalo Bills ownership. And there comes a time when, a player just pushes too far. There was T.O. in Philadelphia. T.O. was a headache when T.O. was holding out and doing push-ups for the media on his driveway, when he was criticizing his quarterback, Donovan McNabb, when he couldn't shut up in Philadelphia, as good as he was, and he was still at the peak of his game. Finally, the Philadelphia Eagles gave up on T.O. I mean, obviously different situation, but I think a similar dynamic in that, here's a very talented wide receiver.
Yep.
He's Pro Bowl caliber. We will win more with T.O., but my God, he's aggravating the team. He's not good for the locker room. We've got to let him go and we've got to move on. And to me, that's what Cole Beasley is currently doing in Buffalo. He can't be good for the locker room. He's not setting a good, if you're the owner and you want everybody vaccinated, and I got a strong feeling that's what all the owners want. You've got this guy out there with a big microphone making a lot of noise against being vaccinated. That's not good leadership for the rest of your football team if you believe they should be vaccinated.
Well, you mentioned T.O. I think of Antonio Brown, right? I mean, his contract now is performance-based, right? And if you are acting up, if you can't be here for whatever reason, then you're not making your money because most of your money is coming from your performance on the field. And that's the situation he put himself in due to his off-field antics throughout his NFL career. So, yeah, I very much agree with that.
Yeah, I think you could certainly say the way Antonio Brown drove the Pittsburgh Steelers and later the then Oakland Raiders crazy and the Patriots I mean, and then he's a Patriot for a moment, and Antonio Brown, Shannon, and as you recall,
hot minute.
Yeah, a hot minute. Did catch a touchdown from Tom Brady in a Patriot uniform. But yeah, then you bring up Robert Kraft's sexual indiscretion issue at the massage parlor. I mean, some things are just common sense that you don't do. And, same thing. Cole Beasley is popping off and continuing to pop off. And it is a hot button issue in the National Football League and across America. And I would just say, Cole Beasley, you make a pretty darn good income as a wide receiver in the National Football League. And I'd hate to see that go away for you, but he is certainly testing people. Another football story, Shannon, that I want to get into, and kudos to you for bringing it up on your Salty Shakedown yesterday. And I still want my Bishop Sycamore t-shirt. This story about Bishop Sycamore, it was all over. When our show ended, I'm listening to the Dan Patrick show. I'm listening to Colin Cowherd. It's all over sports media yesterday. Everybody except ESPN was talking about it. ESPN, because they're the network that put on that football game featuring Bishop Sycamore. So they're saying, we're not really talking about it that much.
Biggest sports story out there. And
nothing to see here, even though we telecast that game. So we have a development involving the head coach of Bishop Sycamore over the last 24 hours.
He's out.
Oh, no.
He's out. The school announced that I guess it's still calling itself a school because I think people don't believe it exists.
No.
But they've announced because of his arrest warrant that came to light after everyone kind of dove into the school and their background. He's no longer the head coach. So Roy Johnson without a job. And I wonder if he's turned himself in.
Yeah.
Or how no one's picked him up yet.
Well, and you talk about if that school exists or not. Dan Patrick had a reporter on who's reporting on this story locally, and an investigative reporter. And the address for this school, Bishop Sycamore, it's a gym. It's a workout gym that has weights and treadmills and all. And according to the owner of the gym, that the players would come and show up maybe about once a month and work out at the gym. So how do you fire the coach when you really don't have a school? This story is just getting crazier and crazier.
Is this like a front? Is this like people who create quote unquote churches because they can work a business and not be taxed?
Tax free, yeah.
Is there something with schools that maybe they're taking in government checks or something for being a quote unquote school? And they're like, but if we have a football team, football is America, and that'll make us look legit. No one will question us. Except when we go on nationally to televised TV to play a game that we're not very good at.
So it's so weird. It's one of the weirder stories.
Are we being punked?
Maybe, yeah.
Ashton Kutcher is this revival?
Gosh, I think we might be being punked. But what's so amazing, and again, the game was televised on ESPN between Bishop Sycamore and IMG Academy, and learning more and more now that Bishop Sycamore is not a legitimate, almost certainly not a legitimate high school or to be playing football. Yeah, to me, it's like there's got to be a 30 for 30 on this. Here it's ESPN, and because they aired it and they got stuck their foot in it and got duped and got punked, yesterday across all of their platforms, they don't want to talk about it. But I mean, it is a beautiful. I mean, I want to know more. I want to know how this started. Yeah, how a major sports network, arguably the major sports television network, got duped into airing a nationally televised football game, using this fake football team. They then got, they got blown out something like 50-0. I mean, it was so illegitimate. And then you've even got, how legal is it, Shannon? They had men, some of these guys in their 20s playing for a fake high school football team against 16, 17-year-olds who are actually legitimate high school football players. Yeah. I mean,
no one got hurt.
Yes. Yeah. What if a
mysterious concussion or something maybe coming soon?
Yeah. What if one of those high school football players from IMG Academy would have suffered a career-ending injury from what turned out to be a 24-year-old dude who was not in high school but had played semi-pro football? Crazy.
Hey, Chris, and if Cam Newton's looking for somewhere to start, Bishop Sycamore is maybe looking for somebody.
I did see someone mocked up a graphic of Cam Newton Bishop Sycamore outfit.
That might be. I love that.
Maybe goes right into coaching. Right into coaching.
Yeah, you're right. There is a coaching opening.
Coaching open too. Yeah.
He can be both.
Yeah.
Player coach.
Seems like they're lacking a lot of people over at that academic high school. So, maybe also he'll be in the classroom. Who knows?
It sounds like they have good workout facilities there too.
Wow. I still, though, I
picture like a Rocky style back the beating path kind of gym. Like there's nothing really there. It's just called a gym.
Yeah. And that is the mailing address for Bishop Sycamore. Unbelievable. But I still want the T-shirt. I still want the Bishop. And do we know what? I got to find out what was the mascot. What were they? The Bishop Sycamore Wildcats? What were they? I'm sure that's out there. I'm going to have to find that out as well. I also, Shannon, you have something in the notes today. I often talk about how I want High Five to come to San Antonio. It would only be fair. Austin shouldn't have all the fun. I understand Austin may be getting one of San Antonio's most acclaimed taco and Mexican food venues.
Yeah, well, I put it in the notes because I wanted to ask you about it because I going through the Austin news yesterday, and there's a story about Las Palapas coming to Austin. Apparently, they've already got a space in mind. I don't know where it is yet. I'm hoping it's by me because I then spent half of the afternoon looking over the menu and reading reviews about it in San Antonio. So I wanted to get your take on the restaurant and, if I should be first in line or just kind of wait it out until, things clear. Because, I don't like crowds. So
yeah, I'm a fan.
How big the opening's going to be.
I'm a fan. I like Las Palapas a lot. They've got great tacos, great burritos. I've even met years ago. We did a remote at a Las Palapas. I've met the owners of Las Palapas. They're good people. They don't. It at least used to be the policy. Like Chick-fil-A, they don't. They're not open on Sundays. They close one day per week, and they're not hyper religious, but they say this is so our employees can be with their families for a full day and not have to work a 7-day week.
I'm more of a Friday, Saturday Mexican kind of gal, so Sundays are okay. I have my Sunday spot already.
And they've got like a lot of places you can either dine in or you can go through the drive-through. The drive-through, it's usually you drive through, get your tacos, and they've got a great brownish salsa that you can smother your tacos in. And the salt, it's like a tangy, very delicious salsa at Las Palapas.
Are they the 24-hour one, or do they have 24-hour location? There's a 24-hour, I think.
I'm not sure. I can't say for sure.
I think they are open 24 hours.
They are 24 hours.
Yeah, I've gone out there 8 hours.
So I have been to one of them before during my time in San Antonio.
And Dave, since you've been, do you give the recommendation I did on Las Palapas to Shannon?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the best in the city.
No,
but it's definitely solid. They make good tacos and burritos, and it's worth it.
And I would say
Now, we never
this.
had it.
I would say it is clearly an upgrade.
My budget is my.
Oh yeah,
meaning- okay.
yeah. It's not
Good
expensive at
deal.
all.
But whereas Taco Cabana is a chain, and in a pinch, Taco Cabana will do. I mean, it's a big upgrade from Taco
Oh,
Cabana, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, yeah. It's a
Huge
big upgrade from
upgrade.
that.
So
Yeah. So I mean, if you're driving down the street and you can either go to Taco Cabana or Las Palapas, you definitely go to Las Palapas.
there's a spot by my house that was a Mexican restaurant for like not even a year because they opened in the middle of COVID and they didn't really have it together, and so they didn't make it. But it's very close. It's not giant, but it does also have a drive-through window. So I'm just praying to the Lord above right now that that's where this place goes, because I will be a frequent flyer. And if it's open 24 hours a day, you'll just see me on the video monitor every day eating breakfast tacos.
Beautiful. Well, once Las Palapas comes to Austin, Shannon, you need to do a video and give us a review and see if it lives up to the hype. I certainly would give it some hype. All right, coming up, we don't have to hype the salty shakedown. It speaks for itself. It will entertain and enlighten and sometimes outrage you. Coming up as well, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, those are all next. The great Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, and before that, longtime voice of the Texas Longhorns. He'll join us just after 8 o'clock. We'll talk about a wide variety of topics with Bill. And also, before 9 o'clock, just after 8:30, we'll give you a shot at those Coheed and Cambria tickets. Somebody's going to win those. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Dave Ayler. We are with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show.
All right. Now, I've done 3, correct? I need 2 more. I'm editing some spots I needed to record this morning. So that's my activity here during the last couple of breaks. If I'm lucky, I'll get that done here. That'd be about 5. Wow, what's going on there?
had an Einstein mustache and tobacco pipe. He kind of walked like he had an Einstein mustache could recite tobacco pipe. He kind of walked like an Einstein mustache could recite tobacco pipe. He kind of walked like an Einstein mustache could recite tobacco pipe. He kind of walked like an Einstein mustache could recite tobacco pipe.
Christopher Sanchez, good morning. Eddie Fisher, good morning. Jared Taylor, good morning. Christopher Sanchez, good morning. Now, why is that? I thought I had that site muted, and this is starting to... There it is. Okay, now I'm good. When I don't have the site muted on my computer, when I speak or if anything happens in here, it goes through the system. We get it delayed back here. So Jason Paniagua recommending the Okie Burrito at Las Palapas. Yeah, they used to have like was it a monster burrito or a monster taco that was spectacular? But yeah, real good food.
The Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeting.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Wednesday, September 1st. Football season upon us, and we'll talk football, even though he's paid to talk basketball. He's called a lot of football, every game in the Ricky Williams career back when he was voice of the Texas Longhorns. He's still big on the Longhorns football program, pays close attention to it, and he is now, among other things, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Bill Schoening going to join us just after the top of the hour. Might talk a little music with Bill as well, as he is a singer-songwriter, and he shared a work in progress with me recently. So he's always just great, creative, talented guy. And a whole heck of a lot of fun and very knowledgeable in sports. So Bill Schoening going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, your shot at Coheed and Cambria tickets. They're coming to Circuit of the Americas. That's going to be this Saturday evening, but you can score the tickets today. We'll also give those tickets away the rest of the week, so tomorrow and Friday as well. We're moments away from Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Before that, though, we've got sports birthdays and this day in sports history. On this day, September 1st, in 1890, the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, that's right, the Brooklyn Bridegrooms won 3 Major League Baseball games in one day. They played a triple header against the Pittsburgh Alleghenies, and they won 10-9, 3-2, and 8-4. But to me, Shannon, a team called the Brooklyn Bridegrooms.
I am sincerely hoping that, like guys buy the T-shirts that is
Yeah.
of a tuxedo, right? And they
Yes.
think it's so funny. I sincerely wish that's what their uniforms looked like then, with just a number on the back.
I can't.
Opportunity missed if that's not what went down.
The fans, go Bridegrooms. Woo!
Are you here for the bride or the
Woo!
groom?
So I now need a Brooklyn Bridegrooms baseball jersey and a Bishop Sycamore football jersey.
Or like the stadium, are you on the bride side or the groom side?
Outstanding.
Where's the reception? I mean, they're good. They need to come back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everybody throws rice when they hit a home run or something.
Yes.
Surf cake all the
Doves are
time.
released.
I love it. Hopefully they won't leave their fans waiting at the altar. Those bridegrooms. All right.
Oh.
Whoa, hi-oh. This day, speaking of baseball, I'm going to research the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, see how long they lasted before that name changed. On this day in 1971, the Pittsburgh Pirates started what is believed to be the first all-black lineup in Major League Baseball history, including several Latino players. In a 10-7 win against Philadelphia, it included future Hall of Famers Roberto Clemente and Willie Stargell. So that's pretty cool. We celebrate Jackie Robinson Day. We should also remember the day that all players on the field starting for Pittsburgh were black. That is so cool. This day in 1972, and this was listed as sports history. I don't think chess is a sport. Maybe Ben DiNucci does, but I'll throw it out there. On this day in 1972, American chess grandmaster Bobby Fischer beat Russian champion Boris Spassky in Reykjavik, Iceland, in the most publicized world chess title ever played. Bobby Fischer was the first American to win the title. The Russians had won it for like 17 years in a row. So anyway, I don't think it's a sport, but I gave it to you anyway. Finally, this day in 1975, New York Mets pitcher Tom Seaver shut out the Pittsburgh Pirates 3-0. He became the first pitcher to reach 200 strikeouts in Major League Baseball for a record eighth straight seasons. He did it 8 years in a row. Tom Seaver was on fire and just amazing for a big stretch of time. There's your day in sports history on a September 1st. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1923, one of the greatest boxers ever, Rocky Marciano, American boxer, undefeated heavyweight champion from 1952 to 1956. He was born in Brockton, Massachusetts. Rocky Marciano passed away in 1969. Born on this day in 1959, American sports journalist and broadcaster Kenny Mayne, who just recently gave up his gig at ESPN. Kenny Mayne, born on this day in 1959 in Kent, Washington. And finally, born on this day in 1972, Olympic gold medalist on multiple events, American swimmer and one of the nicest guys I've ever met, Josh Davis, Churchill High School graduate, Olympic gold medal winner, Josh Davis, born on this day in 1972 in a town called San Antonio, Texas. Great guy, Josh Davis. We'll have to get him on the show sometime. All right, that's your sports birthdays and sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, especially if you're driving, both hands on the wheel, chant your mantra, say your rosary, do whatever you have to do to survive it, because here it is, your Wednesday, September 1st, Salty Shakedown.
All right, Aggies, this one's for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and say you're welcome. I think you've got your guy in Jimbo Fisher. And that's great news because you invested 10 years and $75 million in the man.
Whoa.
And last year, he led your team to finish in its best finish ever since 1938 when the team won its only national championship. And because of that, Chris, the Aggies are considering extending Jimbo and adding to his yearly salary. He's currently making $7.5 million a year.
Wow.
Which is quite a lot of money. They want to make that $9 million a year, sir.
Whew.
Now,
gig him.
This is, I mean, he's got 7 years left on this contract, and I don't know his age. I don't know how much longer he thinks he's going to coach. But do you need to extend right now? If you're A&M, do you not realize the investment that is, the buyout that it will become should the unthinkable happen and they just hit the dumps in the next two seasons. They're like, we got to find somebody else. This isn't working anymore. What do you think of this move to extend him already with 7 years left? They're already paying him $7.5 million a year. It was a crazy contract to begin with. Yes, you've seen success, but with so many years already left on the contract, why extend it right now?
And I just Googled, he's 55 years old. He'll turn 56 during the football season in October.
Old as far as coach. I mean, he's
no,
fine.
He's probably got a good 10 years left if he wants it. I'm guessing A&M knows what it's doing. I'm guessing, and they believe he's the man to lead them to the promised land. But I mean, that's got to be close to Urban Meyer money. I mean, is he second? I think that may be second only to Urban Meyer in annual salary. So, we tend to be Longhorn partisans here, but Aggies if you pick a season that the Longhorns don't win the national championship, I'd like to see them do it. I think it'd be good for the university. You and I both have Aggie friends. Our good friend James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame is an Aggie. So Aggies are people too.
I'd like to see them do it before they give him that extension and the huge pay bump. Because there is like Kobe said, like there's a different life that you live when you make 40 million versus when you make 38 million, right? That 2 million goes a long way if you're used to living a certain lifestyle. And I don't know that Texas A&M wants to invest so soon in that 9 million a year lifestyle, but it looks like that's the way it's going. All right. Moving on to a guy who is known to have a crazy lifestyle himself, Dennis Rodman. I think a lot of people are reaping benefits from The Last Dance, even those that were like, my family was upset to know that I was doing drugs while I was in the NBA. It's like, are they upset or are they just upset that like what they always thought was true is actually true?
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Rodman now banking in on that documentary, as it was mentioned throughout that documentary a couple times, about the 1998 postseason when he went to Vegas for 48 hours and that Jordan was not on board with it, but head coach Jackson was like, you know what, just do it. Just be back in time. He wasn't back in time. Head coach and Michael Jordan had to go to Vegas and pull him out because there's basketball to be played. That's not being turned into a movie, sir, with the man himself, Dennis Rodman, as executive producer. Apparently it'll follow not only that trip, but the friendship that he made during that trip with his assistant. I mean, I guess on the one hand, it's great to have people you work with that you like. On the other hand, you can't have yes men around you. And it sounds like this dude may have been the ultimate yes man to say, yeah, I'll go with you to Vegas for 48 hours during the playoffs. What could go wrong? I'm very excited. To me, it doesn't sound like it's going to be in this documentary style, but more of like a Hollywood kind of movie style. Lionsgate is in charge of this one. So I'm actually very much looking forward to this. It'll be interesting to see just how much they it's Vegas, right? So it'll be interesting to see how much of that kind of gets put into it when it is Dennis Rodman and how much of it is kind of made that much more grand given the characters that play. But I'm looking forward to this one, Chris.
Reminds me a little bit of, and he's no longer living, Hunter S. Thompson wrote a great book called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And he was a madman, kind of like Rodman's a madman, I think in a good way, both of them. And then so they made Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas into a movie with Johnny Depp. And it was based on how Hunter S. Thompson lived and went to Vegas and did what he did. So it seems to me like this will be a little bit like that. And people will see it. And people who didn't know Rodman or might have been too young or no, he couldn't have been that crazy. Yes, he was. I like it. I love it. If it's executed well, I've got some, it will be theatrical. They are looking for actors. I don't know who you're going to get to play Dennis Rodman, but I can't wait. That's going to be a lot of fun.
You mentioned it should be a great movie because it's a great story, which is why the Kurt Warner movie should have been a great movie. But right now, the way it stands, by all accounts, it doesn't look like it's going to actually be a good movie. So hopefully they take some notes from that and do the opposite. All right, moving on to some video game and college football news. Sir, Madden was released just a week or two ago, and they've gotten a lot of buzz, right? Guys are upset with their numbers. They've stayed relevant, but they're trying to keep that relevancy as NBA 2K is set to release. And of course, 2K and EA are separate entities. So EA with Madden is wanting to keep their relevance, keep people playing Madden, right? They don't want them to switch over to the new game once it comes out into NBA 2K. And so to do that, they have done a limited college football edition release. It's available through the 27th of September. So, it keeps you on for that little bit much longer. And included on the quote-unquote Campus Legends edition, where you can play legends who were former college stars, current NFL players, and former NFL players, includes 10 teams, sir. The teams are Clemson, LSU, Texas, Miami, Michigan State, Nebraska, Oregon, Florida, Oklahoma, and USC. Of course, the poster children for this are Reggie Bush and Vince Young. A little bit of a faux pas yesterday, because you can go online right now and look at each team and look at the rosters, which have a great mix of guys that you know and love from each team. But on the Texas side, which does include guys like Vince Young, Colt McCoy, Jordan Hicks, Quandre Diggs, Earl Thomas, Justin Tucker, Michael Dixon, among others. On the defensive side, they put Roy Williams, free safety Roy Williams. Now, Texas did have Roy Williams. He was a wide receiver, though. But they listed on the defensive side Roy Williams, who, of course, out of Oklahoma. Taylor Estes was very quick to point that out yesterday on Twitter. And because she is so widely known and great at her job, they fixed it. They fixed it pretty quickly after she pointed that out. So good on her and good on them for I don't know who made that mistake to begin with, but you're fired. Chris, we are waiting patiently for EA to release the next NCAA football edition. So this is just a little taste, and obviously you're playing with legends. Is this something that intrigues you? I mean, it intrigued me until I learned that it's limited play. It's only through the 27th. If they were to keep this, I might be willing to go out and actually buy a full price version of Madden, but I'm not there yet.
I love the idea. I love playing the legends, and maybe if I replay that Texas USC game, maybe this time Reggie Bush won't throw the no-look lateral over his shoulder and fumble on his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Yep. Not that I'm bitter, not that I can't let it go.
It would be up to you.
But so I want, is OJ Simpson on the USC team? I wonder if OJ.
That's good. Let me pull up their roster in that game real quick.
Take that. Longhorns. I'm starting OJ in the backfield.
OJ is not on there, similar to how Clemson has given you Trevor Lawrence, but not Deshaun Watson.
Oh, ouch. Yeah. Deshaun can't be happy about that. So, gosh, they got to keep this. That's great fun.
Yeah, I'm sure if people like it, if the gameplay looks good, that they may extend it or something to again, keep people interested. I mean, the timing of this is not crazy, right? It's week 1 of college football, and they're trying to again keep that relevancy during this NBA 2K release that's coming up soon. So there you have it, today's Salty Shakedown.
Another outstanding edition of the Salty Shakedown. So help me out on this. How does that work through the 27th? What, you play online and then it goes away and you can never play again after September 27th?
Yeah, it's an online kind of thing. So you get to download it and then it would go away after.
That sucks.
After the 27th. Yeah.
But again, though, it may be, I mean, you think about it, it may be absolute genius. Because if you get people to love it and then it goes away, there's nothing like creating a demand for something and, creating some fans who become religious zealots over this and leading, online movements to try to get it back. What great publicity is that for EA Sports?
Right. And, they obviously, these are guys that went and played in the NFL at some point. So they had the right to throw these guys in, and they obviously worked with the schools to allow their logos and such to be included, and they're notable schools. I don't see why they either maybe bring it back and keep it, especially because EA, as I said, they do both Madden and NCAA football. NCAA football is probably not going to come back until 2023. This is a great holdover, and to get people like me who don't necessarily play Madden but play NCAA to get the game.
Yeah, well, and people like me. I mean, you give me a chance to play a game with legends. I might dip my toe. I mean, just you're describing it made me intrigued, and I want to replay Texas versus USC.
Would you pick Matt Leinart or Carson Palmer as your quarterback?
Leinart, other than that Texas game, won a whole lot of games for USC and led them to what was later taken away. Thank you, Reggie Bush, the big national championship win over Oklahoma the previous year. So I'd go Leinart over Carson Palmer.
About the Juju Smith-Schuster as your number one wide receiver.
That's not a bad idea.
I wonder
might
if he
go for
dances
Juju.
if he scores a touchdown.
Yeah, but I definitely would.
Troy Polamalu, Clay Matthews.
Oh my God, yes.
I hope they're giving them their college ratings and not what they are right now.
That would be fair. And that would take some research on the creators of the games part.
Interesting. They have a punter, Tom Malone, on that roster, no kicker. So I guess you can't do any field goals. Or maybe they just trot out a random body. I guess you still have to fill a team, right?
Yeah, I would think. So fun stuff. All right. Speaking of fun, he is always entertaining, and he knows his stuff on all levels of sports and more. Our good friend Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. And whenever we talk to Bill, the conversation will drift into Longhorn territory, as he was the voice of the Texas Longhorns for many years, and he still follows them very, very closely. Shannon will get his pick for Texas versus Louisiana coming up this Saturday. Bill Schoening joins us next. Coheed and Cambria ticket giveaway coming your way as well. 8 o'clock hour coming up on the Chris Duel Show. Leo, to answer your question, yes, I think San Antonio should bid to host any national championship. You know, SA Sports and the city, you know, everything they've hosted over the years. And there have been a number of, you know, big events here, sporting events, as you know. City does it well. So, you know, more football is good football. Okay, let's see, do I have time to mail these? I think so. Let's see.
Bill's ready.
Thank you, sir. Cleo says sports is a smoke screen to keep everyone asleep. Interesting thought.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
We are in the month of September, September 1st, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, but it's a beautiful time of year as football is beginning to move into high gear. Baseball gets a whole lot more interesting, in my opinion, in the month of September as the pennant races narrow and the door begins to close and we find out who's going to the baseball postseason. And in this calendar month, NBA teams will be going to training camp, which is crazy as well, but exciting. And we love talking all sports with our good friend Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Before that, longtime voice of the Texas Longhorns on a Wednesday morning, September 1st. Bill, how are you doing this morning?
Very good, Chris. Good to be with you this morning.
Now, obviously you're the voice of the Spurs, so you're all about the basketball, but you're all about so many sports. You know, we talk a lot about your career calling all kinds of sports through the years, and one of your big stops was at the University of Texas. But how do you feel about this time of year as we move into football season? Baseball really kicks into another gear in September, it seems, and final calendar month before we play NBA basketball on October 4th.
I think the official dog days are over, right, Chris? There's a period of time where, baseball's kind of in the middle of the summer and starting to get, pick up a little bit of steam, but it's hard to get really fired up about a pennant race in August. But now the pennant race really begins in September, right, as far as baseball is concerned. We're still, about a month away from training camp for NBA, but now the NFL and college football picks up too. So, this is a good time to be a sports fan. And obviously, I know here in the great state of Texas, we talked about Friday Night Lights last week, how the high schools were getting started up and now the colleges are getting started up. So it's a very exciting time. One of the things we talked about last week, Chris, is whether you go out to a UTSA game or Trinity or Incarnate Word, go out and watch a college game because they're right there on your doorstep in San Antonio. And there's a lot of good athletes that need support out there. And there's a good time to be had to go out there and watch some good college football, whether it's, a small college or a Division I school like UTSA. Of course, they've got a big game, I guess, with Illinois this week, right? So
yep.
I know that those guys will be traveling and look forward to that big game up in Champaign.
Well, Bill, since we got you on football, what are your thoughts about the Texas matchup against Louisiana this weekend? Right now, that line sits at 8.5 in favor of Texas. You think they win this?
Well, yeah, I think so. But, Louisiana, I think, is a pretty good team, right? I mean, they're ranked number 23 in the preseason poll. And it's funny because back when I was doing college football, in fact, I remember doing a game in Lafayette when it was the University of Southwestern Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, they call them USL. And then at one point, they changed their name to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And then they changed it to just the University of Louisiana. So I'm not even sure. I think that's what they call themselves now. So it's just Louisiana. But real quick story about Lafayette, Louisiana. Of course, it's over. And then I'm certainly hoping and praying for all those people on the Gulf Coast that have lost so much and sustained so much damage. But there's a little town outside Lafayette called Breaux Bridge. And it's where the original Mulots is. Chris, have you ever been to Mulots in New Orleans?
I have not. I've heard about it, but I have not been there.
Okay, well, the original place is in Breaux Bridge outside Lafayette. And on a Saturday afternoon, and this is not during the football season, this was during the summer, I was driving to the East Coast, and we're just going through Louisiana, and I had heard about Breaux Bridge, and I heard about Mulots, the original one, so I stopped in there. And on a Saturday afternoon, about 12:30, I walk in, and there's Zydeco music playing. The dance floor is full. The band is playing. Everybody's singing in French, and there's a party going on. And it's 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon. I get a table to get some etouffee or some gumbo, whatever I got. But I just remember the spirit of Lafayette and Breaux Bridge. It was a really Louisiana experience. So when I think of the Raging Cajuns, that's what I think of. But it was the first time I remember doing a football game between Sam Houston State and Southwestern Louisiana. And it was the first time I tried etouffee or gumbo. That would have been 1988, somewhere around there. So I've got very fond memories of doing ball games over there in Lafayette. Now, with all that said, I do think the Longhorns will beat Louisiana, but I think that it'll be interesting to see exactly how Coach Sarkisian plays this, because he's announced that Hudson Card is going to be the starter, but he also announced that Casey Thompson will be getting some snaps. So I'm anxious to see how exactly he plays that with his two quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Bill, Shannon and I have talked a lot about that, the fact that, we are hearing from Steve Sarkisian that both quarterbacks will be getting playing time. From your perspective, is that a good move? Some speculation is maybe you want to keep Casey Thompson a little happy or engaged because you don't want him to go into the transfer portal, which is such a big deal in college athletics right now. But do you think there should be a definitive starter? He's our guy. Let's go to battle. Or do you kind of like what Sarkisian is doing here?
I think maybe later on the season, you really need to settle on one guy. I think early in the year when you're playing these non-conference games against teams you should beat, even though, as we mentioned, Louisiana's a pretty good team, I can see him giving himself some leeway there to say, let's get Casey some snaps. Now, the problem is if they both play well, or if neither of them play well, then you start the whole quarterback controversy. I'll never forget when I first took a job at KLBJ in Austin in 1989, first time I was covering the Longhorns. And the Longhorns had a starting quarterback named Peter Gardere, and the backup quarterback was a kid from Round Rock named Mark Murdoch. And Mark Murdoch's quote was, the most popular person in Austin is always the number 2 quarterback at the University of Texas. In other words, there's such a controversy all the time over who the starter should be that the number 2 guy is going to be more because the grass is always greener. And that is a quote that has held up through the test of time, because I was back in 1989 when Mark Murdoch said, oh, yeah, the most popular guy in Austin, number 2 quarterback at UT.
Well, while we got you talking about back when you were covering Texas, wanted to ask you this. We learned that EA and Madden have released a limited edition campus legend where you can go back and play as former Texas Longhorns. They released the roster, but just curious, of your time covering Texas, what's one guy on either defense, offense, special teams that you would love to see be a part of that collection?
Of course, Ricky Williams would have to be the offensive player, right? He won the Heisman Trophy, and I got the chance to carry or cover his entire career, cover every carry and catch that he had during his great 4 years at the University of Texas. On defense, man, there's a lot of good players. There's a guy, I'm sure you remember, Chris, a guy named Brian Jones, who transferred to Texas from UCLA. Brian's originally from Lubbock.
Yep.
And he was such a good linebacker at Texas that he wore the coveted number 60 from Jefferson High School, Tommy Novus.
Oh.
Popularized the number 60 at the University of Texas, one of the great players in UT history. And Tommy Novus had a great NFL career with the Atlanta Falcons. He was a very good player on usually some very bad Atlanta Falcons teams. But Brian Jones started out right after his NFL career. I think he played 6 or 7 years in the NFL. and he was kind of looking for a gig, and I got him a job there at the Zone when the Zone was first starting up in the late 90s. Brian came in and did a couple of talk shows, and then he kind of worked his way up. He did sideline reporting for UT for a while, and now he is on the main college football program for CBS Sports with Rick Neuheisel, who we talked about a little bit last.
Yes.
So yeah, Brian Jones might be one of my defensive guys, although there were a lot of good defensive players during my time at the University of Texas, especially in the defensive backfield when they got that name DBU, guys like Rod Babers and the list goes on and on. Brian Westbrook. There's just so many good defensive players to come through the University of Texas through the years, and there were some very good cornerbacks and safeties during the period of time that I was at UT.
He's Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. We're talking little football right now with Bill. And Bill, I'm a little disappointed. As Shannon mentioned, you've got of the teams involved in this EA Sports release. And I'm not a video gamer, but I'm intrigued by a Legends game. USC is one of them. So I want to replay Texas versus USC. And instead of Reggie Bush, I wanted to start O.J. Simpson in my backfield. Maybe he wouldn't do the no-look lateral over his shoulder and fumble the ball away to Texas. But unfortunately, EA Sports apparently not including the juice, O.J. Simpson, as a USC legend. I'm a little, it kind of makes me a little sad, a little misty-eyed over that, Bill.
Oh, I remember O.J. Simpson at USC back in the old Rose Bowl days when
Yep.
Play Ohio State every year, right? It was always the Big Ten against the Pac-8 or the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, whatever it is, going through all the different numbers of teams that have played in that league. But, OJ was obviously a very good player. But how far back do they go with this? I mean, because you go to Earl Campbell if you're going to go to UT.
Ooh, yeah.
A certain period of time.
Earl's on there.
But, yes, and he should be, yeah. A real quick story about Earl Campbell. My good friend Keith Moreland, who played baseball and football at the University of Texas, ended up having a 12-year Major League Baseball career and joined me in the booth for about 7 years doing Longhorn baseball. Keith was a monster back, kind of a hybrid linebacker, strong safety for Coach Darrell Royal back in the mid-'70s, right before Coach Royal retired. But anyway, Keith played both baseball and football, and his, I guess it would have been his junior year, beginning of his junior year, he was at practice, and in comes this new freshman from Tyler named Earl Campbell. And in practice, the first preseason scrimmage practice, whatever, Earl runs right over Keith Moreland, cracks his helmet, and Keith went right over to Coach Royal after the practice and said, you know what? I'm going to go across the street and concentrate on baseball. I don't have to tackle that guy in practice over the next couple of years. So Keith made the right decision as he went across the street and concentrated on baseball, got drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies, and fashioned a 12-year Major League career with the Phillies and the Cubs and a couple of other clubs during his career. So that was a good move by him not to stay on the campus playing football, because he would have probably had his helmet cracked a few more times by Earl Campbell running over him.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that, Bill. You got a guy like an Earl Campbell, and back in the day, in the era of Darrell Royal and Paul Bear Bryant, I mean, there was no letting up in practice. There was no going easy on any of the players, certainly in practice. So you don't think about the Texas Longhorns day in, day out in practice who had to try to tackle Earl Campbell. That must have been a very, very tough gig.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Paul Bear Bryant, and of course, the great book by, I believe it was Jim Dent, The Junction Boys. They made it into a film about Texas A&M when Bear Bryant was with the Aggies in the 50s, and them going out to West Texas, Junction, which is on the way to West Texas, not far West Texas, but the grueling practices that he put those guys through, basically eliminating about half the roster for Texas A&M if you get through one of those rough training camps for Bear Bryant back in the 50s. Of course, times have changed quite a bit since then. But you mentioned Paul Bear Bryant. Of course, everybody thinks of Alabama. Not many people think about his time either at Kentucky or at Texas A&M.
From football legends to a guy who thought he was creating a legendary career. Now he's known for maybe being a wasted talent. Mr. Ben Simmons has told the Sixers he does not want to be a part of that organization any longer. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. It almost seems like he's a Cam Newton in this situation of a guy who maybe isn't what he used to be or what he could have been. That ceiling doesn't seem attainable anymore. But also a question of a guy, if you want to have him in your locker room, what landing spot do you see would fit Ben Simmons and his style of play and just the personality that he brings to a squad?
Well, it's really disappointing because the Sixers signed him to a long-term deal. I think he's got 4 years left on that contract for $35 million or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of money there, and it might not be easy to move him. So I don't understand this mindset of players that sign a long-term deal and then all of a sudden don't want to be where they are. Deshaun Watson comes to mind right away with the Houston Texans. And, of course, he's got some off-the-field problems he has to worry about. But from a Sixers perspective, and, of course, I grew up in Philadelphia, so I'm a Sixers fan, it's very disappointing to see that kind of performance that he had in the playoffs and then to say that he wants to get traded after, he's guaranteed all this money in this big contract. So it's not going to be easy for Philly to move him because of the dollars involved.
Is he, and again, Bill, as a guy who calls NBA basketball, I mean, you've seen Ben Simmons up close, and as you mentioned, a Philadelphia guy, you followed his tenure with the Philadelphia 76ers. With the issues that he has, do you see him as a guy who, can overcome some of the issues that he has playing the game and live up to the expectation that so many had of him being a force in the NBA as a player?
Great physical talent, obviously very good ball skills for a guy his size. He's got a lot of talent. The question about whether he's going to work hard enough in the offseason to really work on that outside shot, his free throw shooting, there are holes in his game that he really needs to kind of patch up to be a solid NBA player. And he's a very solid NBA player, but to warrant superstar status, you've got to perform when the lights are the brightest, like in the playoffs. And you got to be able to hit shots. He passed up a dunk in the playoffs, for goodness sake. So I don't know where his confidence level is right now. I'm hoping that maybe during the offseason he's really, really working hard on those aspects of his game that need improvement because he's got the physical skills. I mean, he's a very good defensive player at his size to do some of the things he does. He could be a very, very effective player, but he has to work on some of those deficiencies.
Bill, LaMarcus Aldridge left the Spurs last year, went to Brooklyn, and then just a few short weeks later announced his retirement due to a health condition. But now it's rumored that he may be considering jumping back into the NBA. Any chance that he may come back to the Spurs, or will he be looking for a team that he can maybe ride the pine on and win a championship that way?
It's very hard to imagine a scenario where the Spurs would want LaMarcus right now because they're, pretty much committed to this youth movement and to get these young guys some playing time. So I think it might not fit right now with what the Spurs are doing because there's so many young guys that are being brought in that will need some grooming and some time on the floor to get better.
Finally, Bill, we've played your music here before on the show, and we will do so again in the future. But you shared with me this week a work in progress, which I just think is so cool. A song you're working on, a tribute to your favorite teacher in high school. And I mean, you've got such a diversity of songs that you've written and performed over the years. I just find it very, very interesting. I find it very cool that, here we are, at our age, and you and I are very close in age, that, there was somebody in your high school who, affected and inspired you so much that you are, motivated to write a song about him. The name of the song is called We Call Him Mr. G. Tell us a little bit about this high school teacher that will be the subject of this song you're writing.
And he was a poet and a published author and a really sharp guy, but he was very eccentric, very different. He always had this kind of a big tobacco pipe. He had this wild-looking mustache. His hair was long. And for an all-boys Catholic high school, for them to allow a kind of an eccentric teacher to teach and to give him all this freedom to teach, it was great for us because he was a guy that actually taught a class, believe it or not, Chris, called The Poetry and Language of Rock and Roll.
Nice.
I can't wait to sign up for this class. Well, I had it for 2 semesters, and I aced the class because I really enjoyed going to class because we would decipher Bob Dylan or Grateful Dead lyrics.
Wow.
That was the class. So, try to understand where the poetry came from and the language of rock and roll and some of these different artists that were out in the 70s back then. He turned me on to a young unknown singer-songwriter named Bruce Springsteen and Jackson Brown and all these different artists that were just starting to make their way in the early 70s. So he was a big influence on me. I stayed in touch with him. He had a place at the Jersey Shore. I would go visit with him in the summer. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, and I got to thinking about him. And really, during this pandemic, I really feel for teachers and how difficult it is for them to do their job with all these different hurdles that they have to overcome now with COVID. So I was just thinking about teachers. I always had a soft spot in my heart for educators and these people that do a lot of work to encourage and to really guide young folks. So I thought I would do a little tribute to him. So hopefully next week or maybe the following week, I'll have the song finished up and we can share it.
I would absolutely love it. It just sounds so amazing. And are you, even though he has passed, once this song is complete, are you in touch with any surviving family members that might get a chance to hear this?
Yes, his daughter Johanna, who was named after a Bob Dylan song, Visions of Johanna.
Wow.
Yeah, I stayed in touch with her, and she sent me a bunch of great pictures of him, both at leisure and at work, and reading his poetry in front of a group of people. So I hope to do a video to do a real tribute, once the song is finished.
I love it. What a great story, and I love that you're paying tribute to him, and I love that his daughter's going to have the opportunity to hear and see the video of the song. He is Bill Schoening, singer, songwriter, and also voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Bill, it is always great fun every Wednesday to talk sports and more with you. Thanks so much for taking the time. Have a great weekend.
Think about this, Chris. Thank you very much. In 4 weeks now, in 4 weeks, we will have media day, training camp, everything starting back up again. So really looking forward to this upcoming season and seeing some of these young guys get back on the floor for the Spurs.
Absolutely. I can't wait as well. It's going to be great fun. Bill Schoening, have yourself a great September 1st. Take care, man.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Shannon.
He is the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Man, media day, Shannon, for the Spurs 4 weeks from today. Crazy. Crazy.
I feel like it just ended.
Yeah. And I feel like it's still summer. It was 90 something degrees yesterday by the pool. Come on. I don't know that I'm ready, but I get football, and that's a big bonus. We will talk more football in the upcoming segment. We will dive back in, maybe a little Cam Newton, maybe a little Deshaun Watson Cowboys as well. And we can never talk enough Texas Longhorns or UTSA football. Huge opener for them coming up. Speaking of which, Andy Everett will join us tomorrow to preview that UTSA versus Illinois game. Coming up in the next segment, I won't forget, I promise, Coheed and Cambria tickets. We'll do the giveaway as we roll back into the final segment, and you can jump in as well, 800-707-9760. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist, with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Yeah, Steve Duraco, Charlie Parker told me in the hall that Barry Gibb is 75 years old today. I didn't know that. But Charlie just brought that up. And Charlie said, guess the number of artists who have sang a song written by Barry Gibb. And I said, 200. And it's like 2,000 and something. First of all, who counts all of those artists? But over 2,000 different artists have recorded a song written by BG Barry Gibb. And there's a great Bee Gees documentary out there I saw within the last year. I think it's on HBO. Very well done. Okay, I need to check a couple of things. Send that. I think I did. Leo Zambrano said, I met Maurice Gibb in Vegas. Was a very down-to-earth person. Rest in peace, Mo Gibb. That's always nice when you meet an artist and they're good, decent, nice, authentic people. I've had that go the other way a few times. Oh, Warren, that's too bad, man. Hopefully you'll get a shot tomorrow or Friday. So we're giving them away 2 more days. Dean Stone, I see your info on Mulades. Thank you for that. Robert Armstrong. First of all, Jason says 2 weeks until Eric Clapton. That's true. Robert says, I've met many. Most are very nice and friendly. They understand if it was not for their fans, they would not be where they are. Most recently for me was Neil McCoy. Super nice guy that took the time to visit and hang out. Had bad experiences as well. Okay, I'm going to do the ticket giveaway out of the gate here since I darn near forgot it yesterday. My brain was not fully functioning yesterday for some reason. And I know my brain is not fully functioning most days. Thank you for that. For those of you who thought it. Coheed and Cambria, and then we'll do the... Oh, here we go. Woo! Woo!
Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Voice Dude. And the phone number he just gave you could be very valuable to you if you're a fan of Coheed and Cambria, as we are going to give those tickets away right now because some knucklehead, me, nearly forgot to give them away yesterday in the final segment. So Dave Ayler will take your phone call within moments as soon as Shannon Salty Sweeney determines which caller will be our big winner in this segment.
I like number 10 today.
Number 10. Any reason for choosing number 10?
No, it just seems like regular old radio. Caller
Yeah.
number 10.
Number 10. Thought maybe an homage to Eli Manning or something like that. I
No.
guess not.
It is
All right.
September 1st, which means the show is available on ESPN Plus. Eli's Places.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you going to check that out?
If I get time, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been really deep into Dexter, so
Really?
trying to get, because I never watched it, and I'm just started season 4. I'm trying to like finish up before the new season comes out, the special 8 years later removed season.
So clearly, if you went this deep into Dexter, you're digging it.
I'm deep. I'm
Very
invested.
nice. And that lead, is it Michael C. Hall, the lead actor in that?
Yes.
He was, I think I told you this before, he was in 6 Feet Under, which is one of my favorite. It was a HBO series maybe 15, 20 years ago by now. One of my favorite series ever about a family that owns a funeral home. It was a dark comedy about death. So very, very good.
You like the death stuff then, I guess.
Apparently.
I think this is the only thing I've ever seen him in.
Okay. Someday, and I think I've got, do you still have an archaic DVD player? Do you still have one?
No, I have an Xbox though.
Okay. I believe I have every episode of 6 Feet Under on DVD. That's how much of a freaky fan I was. So someday I'll just hand you can just take a look at episode 1, see if you like it. But so that's cool. All right. We must talk about this, Shannon. I know you had it in your show notes, and it is kind of it. The Bryson De Chambeau saga, the roller coaster of a career that involves some strange twists and turns. Takes another strange or not so strange twist. What's going on with Bryson De Chambeau and the PGA? What's the latest development?
Yeah, Bryson seems to have developed another rivalry in Patrick Cantlay following this last weekend's 6-hole playoff. His one with Brooks Koepka, though, still going strong as fans continue to yell Brooksy at Bryson De Chambeau. He reportedly told one of the onlookers at the BMW Championship to get the blank out after they chanted that at him. And I guess he's complained enough now to the PGA because they have decided that they will take part in escorting folks out who decide to, I guess, taunt Bryson De Chambeau. I just think it's, talk about soft. Yesterday, we were talking about Trent Dilfer and him kind of scolding a player, and it involved him yelling at him and grabbing him by the shoulder pads. And a lot of people had comments on our live feed that said, well, kids today are just soft. I mean, I agree in some aspects, but you want to compare apples and oranges here. I mean, that compared to Bryson De Chambeau being upset that fans are engaged in the game and more people are watching the game. And yeah, it's because they are wanting to pick on you a little bit. But to say they're calling me names and it's, even though it's bringing me more notoriety and giving me a larger fan base, probably getting me more sponsorship money, I don't like it. Make them stop.
And when you let people know, when you let hecklers know they're getting under your skin, that ain't good. Yeah. And then when the PGA is now going to toss fans, it's almost like you went to mommy and daddy.
Yeah. As long as they're not doing it when they're about to hit and, they hold up the quiet signs.
Yeah.
They should be able to say whatever they want. They're not telling him to go F off like he's telling them. Right? I mean, it's a nickname that they have bestowed upon him. If anything, he should have leaned into it, and he just decided to go the complete opposite direction.
Yeah. And as I've told you, Shannon, I try to like Bryson De Chambeau when we have our golf, fantasy drafts for big golf events. I've picked him a number of times, and, I like kind of an outsider, an outcast. That's why you brought up Dennis Rodman earlier in the show, where they're making a movie about Dennis Rodman's trip to Vegas in 1998. So it's, whether it's Rodman or Charles Barkley, or in this case, Bryson De Chambeau, it's like, all right, he's eccentric, he's different. Let's check him out. But yeah, when you're going to be a little weasel and complain about people coming at you when you seek attention, then yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, you're going to get to a point in your career where your attitude and the way you carry yourself leaves you with no friends on tour. People just got to the point where they dislike you so much that they don't even want to mess with you anymore. And you're going to be longing for the days when people would jokingly call you Brooksy.
We shall see as the next twist or turn his career takes. Before we dive into another topic here, I do see you have a winner, Dave Ayler, for the Coheed and Cambria tickets. Who's the big winner?
The big winner today is Robert Scott.
Robert Scott. Congratulations,
Yeah,
Robert
yeah,
Scott.
first names.
Yeah, man,
with
with
two
first
first
names.
names. Yes.
Robert Scott. Way to go, Robert Scott.
Like Michael, or any relation to Michael Scott? Come on, The Office, you guys. Oh my gosh, that fell so flat. Ugh.
Very nice.
Can we not fire him? No, Michael, you need cause. It is because I do not like him. That's what Urban Meyer said when they asked him, did you really let go of someone because of vaccination? No, it is because I do not like him.
That would have been beautiful. I did see this, Shannon. New York Mets, we talked about Francisco Lindor, Javier Baez giving the thumbs down to the Citi Field crowd, their own home fans, after they would hit home runs. They have apologized to Mets fans. I got a feeling somebody did some talking to these guys and said, hey, man, it's these fans that pay your salary, that we as an organization, the New York Mets, and kind of need all the fans we can get. So
I mean,
they've apologized.
Their apology was more of, I didn't realize we were offending people.
Yeah, but that's a little weird too.
Yeah, first of all, that's not an apology. Second of all, you show no self-awareness. And third, I wouldn't say that they were offended, but because they were already booing you.
Yeah.
And again, like, you're lucky that they were still showing up when you're bad. Doing that is just going to let them know, okay, I won't even show up anymore. Spend my hard-earned dollars. Because it ain't cheap to go to baseball games.
No.
It ain't cheap to buy all of those iconic food staples that stadiums so proudly tout and offer to their fans. It ain't cheap to buy beer after beer, especially when it's a long game.
Oh my
like baseball.
God. Beer prices at games are just insane.
One beer becomes 5 beers real quick when you play 9 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Mets. Do better.
I do see a story that came out this morning within this hour. Bill Belichick, the head coach of the New England Patriots, asked the question that Urban Meyer got, asked if Cam Newton's vaccination status was a factor in his release. And he said, nope, you guys are the ones who keep talking about that, not us. Let's see. He then went on to say, I would just point out that I don't know what the number is, but the number of players, coaches, and staff members that have been affected by COVID in this training camp who have been vaccinated is a pretty high number. So I wouldn't lose sight of that. Interesting. So going the non-Urban Meyer way, Bill Belichick towing the party line, which is what you're supposed to say, that his vaccine status had no bearing on that decision. So there's that.
Yeah, I think Urban Meyer's learning quickly that, like, one of the major differences between college football and the NFL is that you need to kind of play that line and toe that line on a regular basis, because yes, you're still part of a team, but it's not like the college thing where you are just about that university and can kind of get away with saying other things. And here we are. It didn't take long. I really expected it to be a couple weeks into the regular season before we had Urban headlines like this, but he didn't disappoint.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch Urban Meyer. I mean, almost certainly. You look at the talent level on that Jacksonville Jaguars team, it's going to be a bumpy season, if not for the Houston Texans. They get 2 games against the Texans, including their opener. It might have been a lot bumpier. We'll see how they do. But, I mean, clearly that's going to be a team that loses more games than it wins. To see how Urban Meyer handles that. Certainly post-game interviews will be very, very interesting with Urban Meyer to see if he continues to, maintain his cool or if he flips out a little bit when the going gets tough.
How about Dan Campbell releasing both of the Lions kickers on roster cut day? Like I'm a weirdo, okay? When I do fantasies, I always draft 2 kickers. I want someone there who's decent, who can replace my kicker on a bye week, or should there be an injury. Like, I want to make sure I have that there. And no, they're not scoring as much as running backs and quarterbacks or whatever, but they have won and lost me games at times. So I take that into consideration. He is playing real life football and doesn't have any kickers on his roster right now. I know we get lots of quotes from him, but I don't know. I mean, too many cups of coffee that day. What happened? Do they have somebody else in mind who they're like, you know what, he has a soccer background, we'll just throw him in there? Or are they just going to go for it on 4th every single time, no matter what?
Those kickers must have really sucked in Dan Campbell's view.
Kickers this preseason, they were getting traded and sent home left and right. And, I would have thought by now you'd at least have one that you were going to ride with. For a guy who talks about knocking out a lot of people's kneecaps, he must have knocked the kneecaps out of these kickers when he sent them packing. Goodness.
We'll see. I'm sure there's a few kickers available after yesterday as teams cut down to 53. That'll be a fun one to keep an eye on. Who does Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions choose to be their kicker moving forward? Now, our poll question this morning, Shannon, Cam Newton was the big story yesterday, and that news of the New England Patriots releasing him broke just minutes after we went off the air. But my first thought, whenever there's a development in the National Football League, how does this affect the Cowboys? So in this case, should the Cowboys go after Cam Newton? Should he be the next Dallas Cowboys backup quarterback? What did we learn from our poll voting this morning?
Well, when we started this morning, Chris, 64% were saying no. But since then, it's balanced out a little bit with now only 52% saying no and 48% saying yes. I think you have to also consider the other options that are out there. We know people are the Chicago is taking calls about Nick Foles. I know there's some other, Brian Hoyer also got cut from the Patriots. So there are some other names drifting out there that the Cowboys could look at. I think Cam Newton just happens to be the biggest name, but I don't know that makes him the best option for me.
So I take it you were a no vote.
I was a no vote, yes.
Okay. See, I was a yes vote because, to me, he's, given his baggage, he's still an upgrade over Cooper Rush. We read Jerry Jones's comments from Dallas radio yesterday, and if he is to be taken at his word, Jerry Jones seemed very satisfied and happy with Cooper Rush as the Dallas Cowboys number 2 quarterback. And if that is true, Shannon, and maybe it is, it's Jerry Jones, that just blows my mind. You've got this team that has a great offense, and you've got a quarterback, and you saw what happened last year when your quarterback gets hurt, and you really are going to need that offense to carry your defense. And your insurance policy, if anything happens to Dak Prescott, is Cooper Rush. I think that's the Cowboys not doing their due diligence at backup quarterback.
I don't know. What is his contract situation? Because you talk about insurance, then that makes me think of insurance that we pay for. And a lot of people tend to go the cheap route because you hope and pray you just never need it. But then when you do need it, and I learned this myself, it's no bueno.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about Cooper Rush.
So are you talking about Cooper Rush's contract status or Cam Newton's?
Yeah, Cooper Rush.
It's got to be very minimal. I got to believe a bag of Doritos, keep that guy happy.
But that also speaks to his talent level.
Yes, it does.
And a bag of Doritos.
And he's a guy last year. They cut him last year before the season. If it weren't for Dak's injury, they wouldn't have brought him back. So a year ago, they thought, Cooper Rush has had enough time with us. Let's let him go. And now he's your guy. And you cut Garrett Gilbert and rightfully cut Ben DiNucci. So we will see. I pray to God the Cowboys do something. Nick Foles would make my day. I may go dancing in the streets if the Cowboys somehow got Nick Foles as their backup quarterback. So that is going to do it for a Wednesday, September 1st. Shannon, you and I sometime today will watch Hard Knocks, Dallas Cowboys. I got a feeling we'll be talking about that among other things tomorrow.
Yes, sir. And that's some big games to be played tomorrow. Ranked teams
Ooh.
playing in college football tomorrow, including Ohio State.
Oh my goodness. So we'll dive into some serious college football talk. And as we mentioned, Andy Everett will join us, the voice of the UTSA Roadrunners, getting ready to go to Illinois and take on the Illini in their opener. Dave Ayler, you rock, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shannon, 21 hours from now, we are all over it. Lots of football coming our way.
Do it.
Let's do it. Everybody else, have yourself a wonderful first day of September, and we will see you mañana. Adios, amigos.